Purchase your tracks today. Purchase your tracks today. Beats made this. Purchase your tracks today. Beats made this. Purchase your tracks today.
Alright guys, so this is called an electric violin. For those of you that don't know, I'm going to be teaching you the parts of it today. So I'm going to take the bow and put it aside. So take a look at it. This is a Zeta brand, manufactured in the United States of America, in Montana. It's considered one of the elite electric violins out there. So as you can see, there's a lot of complicated parts here, but don't worry, we're going to be talking about each of them. So starting from the top down, this head portion has multiple parts. It's got the peg box, and it's called a peg box because these are the pegs. And the pegs have little ornaments on the side for beauty and aesthetic purposes. These are the peg handles that you turn to tune the strings. I gotta do a little bit of maintenance on my violin because these little rings or circlets came off, but that's no big deal. Just glue them back on. This is how it's supposed to look. These are the ends of the pegs because they stick in through the box, and as you can see, the strings wind up around the pegs. So when you twist the peg, it contracts the string and stretches it, makes it tighter, and the pitch of the string goes up until the desired frequency. So continuing onwards, these are the strings, and as you can see, each of the strings has a color-coded designation. Now, the brand of the string and the color can vary, but that's not very important. So, moving on, this next portion from the bottom of the head all the way to the end over here, this is called the neck of the violin. And the neck is composed of a few parts. You've got the ebony fingerboard, this black portion, and it's called a fingerboard because it's the board where you put the fingers. Can you imagine? Genius. So, on the fingerboard is where you place your fingers, and that's how you get the desired notes that you want to play, you know? When you play scales and when you play songs and everything. So, the newer models of the Zeta violin come with a, let's call it a bolt-on neck. As you can see, this line over here is a differentiator between the neck piece and the body of the violin, but we'll be discussing all of that later. So let me just turn off the input on my Ableton program here. So now I can remove the electric cable, the audio cable. Alright, moving on. This is the back of the neck. It's beautiful. And as you can see, it's got a more matte of a texture than this like glossy part. So this matte portion is where you hold the violin like this, and it's where you keep your hands, and there's a lot of friction going on here. So this matte texture gives you more of a nice grip on your violin. And as you can see, this little cutaway over here, that's a nice support for your the portion between the index finger and the thumb. Anatomically speaking, this is the thenar muscle, and this is the hypothenar muscle. So in the webbing of your hand, you have a lot of strength from your thenar muscle over here, and that allows you to get a nice grip on the neck of the violin. Alright, look, this is the front of the violin, this is the side, the back, the other side, and the tail portion. So looking at the front of the violin, or the face, as you can see, the fingerboard hangs over the body. And here's a secret that most people don't know. On the back of the fingerboard here is a special code from the manufacturer of the violin, but I'm not going to tell you what that code means right now. That's for a later discussion. So, what else can I tell you? The strings go from the pegboard along the peg box, along the fingerboard, and go down to the tail here. So it's suspended by a bridge. This is the bridge of the violin. And the electric violin has obviously an electric bridge, which is much different than an acoustic violin bridge. But because this is a special episode, we're not going to be talking about the acoustic violin. There's plenty of other videos for that. Maybe I'll make another video later on about the acoustic violin. But since we're talking about just the electric violin, we'll be diving into each of these parts. So continuing now, again, peg box, strings, fingerboard of the neck, but the strings pass over a portion here called the nut. And this is similar to the nut of a guitar. It's simply the first point of contact that the strings have on the fingerboard, because they're attached to the pegs on the peg box, so that'd be the first point of contact in general, keeping the strings tight, but then the nut, technically the second point of contact in total, it's actually the first point of contact in relation to the fingerboard. And the third overall point of contact would be the bridge, and then the fourth point of contact is the tail here. So in relation only to the fingerboard, the first point of contact would be the nut, second point of contact would be the bridge, third point of contact would be the little supports here on the tail. So I know it's a little confusing, but it's all relativity, like Einstein said. So I guess more points of contact would be made by your actual fingers on the fingerboard. Now, I would refrain from calling it a fretboard like on a guitar because obviously there are no frets, but just for sake of conversation, if you catch me saying fretboard, it's because I also play guitar. I've got the guitar right here. There's the proof. Now, as you can see, this neck has frets, this neck does not. These are the frets, these horizontal metallic bars over here. So when you play a guitar, you've got clear notes. You know, you can place your finger anywhere between the fret and it's still going to sound the same note. But on a fretless instrument, like the violin, wherever you place your fingers, it's going to increase or decrease the pitch. So if you're on the first string, which is an E, and you're trying to play, let's say, an F, which would be the first position here, if you play too high, then that's going to be a different note. And if you play too low, it'll just go back to E. So you have to be really precise when placing your fingers on the violin. All right, that's enough babbling. We got to move on. You've got another cutaway over here, which is similar to the first one, and it's a good point of reference for where your hand is. Because when you're playing, and you end up going higher and higher into like upper positions, you're gonna feel this cutaway on your hand, and as you can see, it just fits in perfectly. You know, it's a good tactile point of reference for how far you are on the violin. And why this is important will come later. This is a little hand rest. It's removable. You can twist it off and then twist it back on. It's just a screw-on. Some violinists prefer it on, others prefer it off. I prefer it on because it's a similar point of reference for when you're playing. The bridge of your wrist, it's going to strike against that support over there, against the hand rest. So you'll know exactly where you are. And this is a familiar point of reference for acoustic violin players as well, because on an acoustic violin, you would have the two ribs of the violin here, the two bouts, maybe I should say. So this is really kind of a vestige, a reminder of the familiar position of the acoustic violin. So moving on, we've got two bouts over here, which are nice and sleek and aesthetic. Look at that. You've got the logo. This portion, this side portion, is called a rib. It's got two ribs, or rather, a rib that just goes all the way around, right? Since it's just, it's continuity. But as far as lingo, you can say the two ribs of the violin. Now, the front of the violin, this part of the body, is called the front plate or the face, and then this is called the... So, as I was saying, this is the back plate of the violin, or just simply the back. You've got two compartments here. This compartment is for all the electronics of the violin that allow you to get an amplified sound, and these are the two ports. You've got an 8-pin MIDI, and you've got a 1/4-inch audio jack. So you can actually not only play through the audio jack just the natural sound of the violin, which is controlled by the volume knob over here, but you can also attach it to a piece of gear that you can control, let's say, electronic sounds. So you can even manipulate, let's say, VSTs in like an audio, in a DAW, digital audio workstation, like Ableton or Cubase, Fruity Loops, or anything like that. Or you can even use some kind of pedal device, like a Roland or something like that. Either way, let's continue. We're going to talk about this thing later, this little compartment here. So let's talk about the actual strings. You've got the thinnest string. This will be the first string. It's called the E string. That's because that's the E note. Then you've got the second string is an A. Then you've got the third string, which is a D. Then you've got the fourth string, which is a G. Now that's it on a regular acoustic violin. Typically, a classic acoustic violin has only 4 strings. But now we've got a fifth string on this electric Zeta, which is a C. Right? So all the strings are tuned in fifths. C, G, D, A, E. Right? They pass over the electro-piezo pickups, which are these copper things, these little saddles, right? They pass over that, and when they vibrate, they transmit the vibrations to the pickup or the bridge, and that little cable inside there transmit it further to the electronics. And the electronics here transmit it further to the audio jack, which goes, or the MIDI, both, which goes out to your input device. You input the violin into the device, and then the device outputs the sound to your speakers. Alright, so this is a chin rest. This is where you rest your chin. Incredible, I know. Just like the fingerboard, where you put your fingers on the board. About to get a stroke. Anyways, this is a chin rest. This is a shoulder rest. It's an accessory to the violin, so it does not come included with the violin. And you just attach it to the back. You just slip it in like that. And you rest your shoulder on it. That's why it's a shoulder rest. Okay. You rest your chin on the chin rest. You rest your shoulder on the shoulder rest. And then you clamp them down together like that. Your chin and the shoulder. Clamp it down to hold the violin in place. Just like that. Don't drop it. It's expensive. Alright. This tail piece here, it's got a couple of components as well. First of all, observe where the strings latch on to these little hooks over here. Can y'all see that? Can y'all see the hooks? I hope you can. As you can see, the strings end in little balls over here, and these balls are large enough to cover the gap between these hooks. As you can see, each hook, I don't know if that can focus, each hook has 2 teeth, if you will, and those 2 teeth, like this, those 2 teeth latch on and hold the ball of the string in place. This is the string, an imaginary string. Alright, and these hooks are like this, right? And there are fine tuners over here, these golden things here, which when you twist it and tighten the fine tuner, basically the hook goes backwards and it pulls that ball and elongates or tightens the string even more. So once you use the pegs to get like a, ballpark estimate of where your note should be, let's say you're tuning the first string, the E, you tune the peg as best as you can. You use a tuner. This is a a Diodario micro tuner. It just latches on to the side of the violin like that. You click the button on top, and on the screen it'll display the note. So let's go give that a spin. There you go. As you can see, the C note is a little bit out of tune because I've been playing for a while. So now you use the fine tuner to tighten it, and basically that hook will, it will modify its action to straighten out, my God, babbling like a baby, to stretch out the string. So just watch it in action. See, now it's a little bit too high. That's about right. So when you're actually tuning, it would make a lot more sense to hold the violin, watch the screen of the tuner, and use your bow to draw across the string to get the true note. Because when you pluck it, it's not quite the way it should sound. And then you pass your hand underneath the bow, not over like some kind of freak, but underneath the bow. Can you see that? And you regulate. All right? So, and then you use your eyeballs to watch the screen of the tuner. And then you start tuning. So I just did a pass through on each string, but when you reach the end, when you tighten the final string, it'll actually, the tension on the neck from each string modifies the tunings of the other strings. So you always have to double and triple and maybe even quadruple check your work, check what you've done. So I've just done a pass through of all the strings, but now I have to go back and check the tunings again. So now since I tightened up all the other strings, the first string, the C string, which was steady and in tune before, is now a little bit too high. So now I have to lower the tuning a bit. So now they're all more or less in tune. For the purposes of this video, it's enough. We can remove the tuner just again for the video. And we can continue talking about the different parts here. So, the chin rest here has two little braces that attach on the bottom like that. And it's got these little holes. And usually you should use a specialized little tool to stick them in the holes. And when you turn the tool and you turn each of these little brackets over here, basically the top and the bottom screws, which connect to this little middle bracket, they look like this. There's like two screws connected by a bracket in the middle, like this. And when you turn the bracket, the screws either come apart or they go closer together. So obviously when they come apart, the chin rest will extend and loosen, and you can remove it. And then you put it back on and you tighten the brackets, and those two little screws will clamp down and go in like that, and like capture the violin, the body of the violin. And as you can see, on the bottom of the chin rest here, there's a little piece of cork sometimes, or in this case, I'm not too sure what material it is, but I think it is still cork by the looks of it. You've got the Zeta branding as well on the back, so it's all authentic. Right, the bridge itself, we have to talk about something. The front also has a Zeta logo, just like on the side here. And on the back are engraved the words jazz. Why? Because this violin is called a Zeta Jazz Fusion 5-string double edge. It's called a double edge because it's got 2 edges. As you can see, this margin is a little bit thicker here. This margin is 1 edge, and this margin is the 2nd edge. Now there are 2 body types. There's the legacy body and then the double edge body. The double edge is more special and it's more expensive because it's obviously an extra detail, whereas the legacy body has only a edge on the bottom, but then the top here has no edge. It simply falls away, kind of like here. See, there's no edge here, and then suddenly the edge starts building up. Just imagine this violin without this 2nd edge here. Alright, I'll be showing you guys more examples of that later. So, what else can I show you? This right here is a little plastic cap. Its functions are unknown. I'm just joking. The functions are definitely known, but I just don't know them. So I definitely have to get back to you guys on that. The volume knob itself, as you can see, you twist it to get volume and to make it quiet. As you can see, an authentic Zeta has the logo on it, as well as a little marker. See that little marker moving? It's like a ridge which is deeper than the rest. That's your indicator, and then there's a screw that keeps it in place. That's the indicator of like where your volume knob is. Alright, well, besides that, I think that's pretty much it. So, thanks for watching my video. Don't forget to like and comment and subscribe.